I complimented her without meaning to. The alien woman did look away. Elias Trent adjusted the strap of his utility pack and squinted at the strange flora that dotted the rocky terrain. The plant life here was unlike anything he had studied on Earth. Some glowed faintly in blues and greens, others shifted their shapes as if they were aware of his presence. He tapped his tablet, recording observations. Odd, he murmured, noting the rhythmic pulsing of a tall, translucent vine. Almost like it's breathing. The station behind him hummed with low energy, a constant reminder of human effort in the middle of an alien wilderness. Though the structure was advanced, the isolation weighed on him. For weeks, he had been the only human on the eastern outpost, save for a few drones that monitored environmental readings. A flicker of movement caught his eye, and he froze. At first, he thought it was another of the shifting plants. But as the figure stepped forward, it became clear. This was not Flora. It was an alien being, humanoid in shape, but entirely unlike any human he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered faintly, a silvery hue that reflected the colors of the rift. Her eyes were large, almond-shaped, and glowed faintly like twin moons in the dim light. She moved with a fluid grace, and each step seemed deliberate, measured, as if she understood the terrain better than any human could. Elias swallowed hard. "Oh, hello," he said, his voice cracking slightly. He had expected the Zalari to avoid humans or perhaps to ignore them entirely. But this was something different. The alien woman stopped a few meters away and tilted her head slightly. She made no sound, no gesture of greeting. Her gaze, however, remained locked on him. There was no fear, no hostility, only attention, and that alone was unnerving. Elias' mind raced. He was trained in xenolinguistics, the study of alien languages, but he had never had a live encounter with the Zalari. He had read reports and seen images, but nothing prepared him for the reality, and somehow he needed to make a good impression. He gestured awkwardly toward the glowing vine behind him. "Beautiful, isn't it?" His words were meant for the plant, but the phrase stumbled out of his mouth before he could redirect it. The alien woman didn't look at the vine. Her eyes remained fixed on him. For a moment, the air seemed to hold its breath. Elias felt the weight of her gaze pressing on him, an intelligent curiosity that felt almost human. I mean, he stammered, cheeks heating. He realized he had accidentally complimented her instead of the plant. His heart raced, and he wanted the ground to swallow him whole. Then something unexpected happened. She didn't look away. She didn't react with anger or fear. She only continued to watch him, her gaze steady and unwavering. Elias blinked, trying to gather his composure. I didn't mean, I just... A soft, musical sound broke the silence. It was not a word, at least not in any human language. It vibrated in the air, gentle yet precise. He had no idea if it was a greeting, a question, or merely a sound of acknowledgement. He nodded slowly, as if that could explain everything. "Right, of course. I'm Dr. Elias Trent. I'm here to study this area." The alien tilted her head again, as if considering his words. Her eyes flickered briefly, a subtle shift that he felt more than saw. Then, with astonishing grace, she moved closer. Not threateningly, not aggressively, just closer. Elias took a step back. He was trained to handle first contact, to approach cautiously, but his instincts screamed at him to freeze. The creature before him was intelligent, aware, and clearly capable of understanding him, or at least sensing something about him. As she stopped again, a few feet away, Elias noticed more details. Her skin seemed to flow, almost like liquid metal in motion, catching the light and bending it around her. Patterns appeared across her shoulders and arms, shifting in intricate geometries. They were mesmerizing, hypnotic almost, and he felt a strange pull of admiration. Your patterns," he said before thinking. "They're amazing." Her gaze didn't waver. If she noticed the slip, that his words were another accidental compliment, she gave no sign. For the first time, Elias felt a connection. Not a friendship, not yet, but a bridge. The Zalari were known for their stoicism, their detachment from emotion. And yet here she was, holding his gaze, the silence stretched. The rift itself seemed to hold its breath. The winds that stirred the alien flora stilled for a moment, and the glowing vines paused their rhythmic pulsing. It felt as though the entire world had narrowed to just the two of them. Elias realized how ridiculous it must look. A human, stammering, and an alien, utterly calm, in the middle of a dangerous and uncharted wilderness. But despite his embarrassment, he felt something he had not expected: courage. Not the brave kind that involved weapons or danger, but the quiet, human courage to engage, to exist honestly, even when completely out of place. She made another sound, a soft hum this time, almost musical. Elias interpreted it as approval. Perhaps she was amused. Perhaps curious. He didn't know, but it didn't matter. The act of being acknowledged by her was enough. He lowered his voice. I'm not sure if you understand me, but I want to learn about you, about this place. The alien's head tilted once more, a slight movement that conveyed more than words ever could. She stepped closer still, her form moving like liquid in slow motion. Elias could feel the heat of the alien air around her, the subtle shift in energy that marked her presence. Then she extended a hand, a gesture, simple, clear, an offering of trust or perhaps a test of his own. Elias hesitated for barely a moment before taking it. Her touch was neither cold nor warm, but it was electric in its own way, a connection that seemed to hum through him. For the first time he saw a faint smile, or at least the Zalari equivalent of one, curve across her features. It was subtle, a flicker, but it was there. And it made Elias feel something powerful. Humans were unpredictable, sometimes clumsy, often emotional, but that unpredictability, that openness had carved a path to this moment. Elias, he said quietly, almost reverently, I'm honored to meet you. The alien hummed again. He didn't know if she understood his words, but the feeling behind them seemed to reach her. And then, without warning, she stepped back, still watching him, still curious, still present. Elias exhaled slowly. The first contact was over, yet it was only the beginning. Somewhere deep in the rift, the wind began to stir again, and the glowing plants resumed their pulsing rhythm as if nothing had happened. But Elias knew better. Something had shifted, something important. He watched her disappear into the shifting mists of the rift, and for the first time in weeks, he felt more alive than he had ever felt on Earth. Humans were fragile, often underestimated, but moments like this reminded him why they were remarkable. Curiosity, courage, and the ability to connect, even unintentionally, could cross the stars. Elias adjusted his pack again, heart still racing. He knew the work ahead would be difficult. Mapping the rift, studying the flora, understanding alien behavior, all of it was dangerous. But now, with the memory of her steady gaze and her acceptance of his accidental compliment, he felt ready. Somehow, he thought, humanity might have a place here after all. The morning sun barely broke through the swirling mists of the Andromeda Rift when Elias returned to the research station. The memory of the Zalari woman, Vera, lingered in his mind like a vivid dream he could not shake. He walked slowly, careful not to disturb the strange flora that seemed to bend and sway with the faintest gusts of wind. Every step reminded him of the encounter the previous day, the gaze that had held him, the subtle acknowledgement, the quiet trust. Inside the station, the hum of machinery filled the air. Screens displayed environmental readings, energy flows, and alien life metrics. Elias adjusted his tablet and began organizing his notes. The flora, the shifting energy currents, the strange atmospheric patterns, all of it formed a puzzle he was determined to solve. A soft vibration against the floor signaled the arrival of Vera. Elias looked up and froze. She had entered silently without the mechanical alerts that accompanied human arrivals. Unlike humans, she did not need doors or scanners. She seemed to glide across the station, her presence almost weightless yet undeniable. Elias swallowed hard. "Good morning," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. Vera inclined her head in response. Her eyes scanned the station, lingering briefly on his notes, then returning to him. Elias noticed subtle changes in her expression. She seemed less cautious now, more curious. "We need to begin mapping the rift's energy currents," Elias said, gesturing toward the holographic map projected from the table. "The data from the drones shows unusual fluctuations. If we can understand them, we might be able to predict, well, anything unusual in the area." Vera made a soft hum again, a sound that Elias had come to recognize as a form of acknowledgement. It was not agreement in the human sense, but it indicated that she understood him, or at least grasped the intent behind his words. He stepped closer to the map, tracing the jagged lines of energy flows with his finger. "Humans see patterns in chaos. That's one of our strengths. Even if something seems random, we can often find a reason, a logic behind it. Maybe the Zalari approach it differently. Maybe you sense something we cannot." Vera's glowing eyes studied him. She did not speak, but Elias imagined that if she could, she might be thinking, curious human, bold in thought, open to learning. The first joint expedition began shortly after breakfast. Ilias adjusted his equipment, checking sensors and cameras. Vera moved with quiet confidence beside him, her steps perfectly aligned with the uneven terrain. She did not wear any human gear, yet she seemed unaffected by the rift's harsh environment. Ilias had learned quickly that observation alone would not suffice. The rift was unpredictable, alive in ways humans struggled to comprehend. Winds shifted without warning, energy surges twisted the flora, and some areas emitted soft pulses that interfered with electronic devices. But Vera navigated it effortlessly, almost as if she were part of the rift itself. "I don't understand how you do that," Ilias admitted as she guided him around a particularly unstable patch of glowing moss. "We have sensors, readings, calculations, but you just sense it." Vera tilted her head slightly. The hum that followed was longer this time, thoughtful. Ilias realized that her understanding of the environment was not merely instinct. It was a combination of perception, pattern recognition, and intuition. Something humans rarely combined in this way. Ilias grinned, despite the tension. "Humans adapt. We learn fast. Maybe if I watch carefully, I can maybe even keep up." She looked at him, her glowing eyes reflecting the scattered light of the rift. There was no laughter, no words, but he sensed approval. She allowed him to take the lead in placing sensors, calibrating equipment, and recording anomalies. It was slow progress, but it was progress nonetheless. By midday, the sun had risen higher, casting a strange, multicolored light across the station's perimeter. Ilias paused, wiping sweat from his forehead. He had expected frustration, but instead felt a sense of accomplishment. Together, he and Vera were making sense of chaos. "Do the Zalari usually work with humans?" Ilias asked, almost rhetorically. Vera stopped, her form still and graceful. She emitted a low, melodic hum and then extended a slender hand toward a nearby cluster of energy readings. The glow in her palms illuminated the lines of power flowing through the rift. Ilias watched in fascination. She manipulated the energy fields with subtle gestures, shifting currents to stabilize dangerous surges. "You manipulate it?" he whispered. Humans could only observe and react. They had tools, technology, calculations. Vera seemed to interact directly, instinctively with the environment. She inclined her head. The hum that followed seemed like a gentle confirmation. Ilias felt a surge of pride. Even if he could not manipulate the energy like she could, he could understand it. That was the human way: study, experiment, innovate, adapt. Hours passed, and the rift's energy patterns became clearer. Ilias began noticing subtle correlations that had eluded him before. Rises and falls in energy that mirrored shifts in plant life, rhythmic patterns in wind currents, and even small vibrations beneath the ground. He shared his observations with Vera, pointing to lines on his tablet and gesturing toward anomalies. She watched silently, her glowing eyes tracking his finger movements, her head tilting occasionally as if testing his conclusions. It was not agreement, but it was acknowledgement, and that acknowledgement mattered. Ilias felt that humans might not have the natural abilities of the Zalari, but their determination and creativity could reach similar results, if combined with trust and observation. As the sun began to lower, casting long shadows across the rift, Ilias and Vera returned to the station. They were tired, but the energy in the air was different now. It was lighter, filled with quiet understanding. Ilias had learned not only about the rift, but also about the value of partnership across species. Back inside, Ilias reviewed the day's data. Patterns emerged that he had not expected. Energy fluctuations, once thought chaotic, now had a rhythm. It reminded him of music, a symphony of light and motion, unpredictable yet harmonious. He smiled, thinking of how Vera had guided him, not through words, but through example. Vera watched from across the room, her presence calm and steady. She did not intrude, did not demand attention, but her gaze followed his every movement. Ilias realized how much humans could teach her as well. Creativity, curiosity, problem-solving, these were traits the Zalari respected, even if they did not express it openly. Ilias set his tablet down and approached her carefully. "I thank you," he said simply, "for today, for everything." The hum that came in response was soft, almost shy. Ilias interpreted it as acceptance. He had stumbled into this partnership accidentally, yet it was already proving meaningful. Humans were not perfect. They were flawed, impulsive, emotional. But that very nature allowed them to connect, to adapt, and to create solutions where others might fail. Night fell over the rift. Stars sparkled in the alien sky, and the station glowed softly against the darkness. Elias watched Vera from a distance. She had returned to her quiet observation, but he felt a strange sense of kinship. They were different in every way, species, thought, perception, but that difference was the bridge to understanding. He realized that their partnership was not just about mapping energy currents or understanding alien life. It was about proving something deeper. Humans had value in ways that even advanced alien species could appreciate. Courage, curiosity, adaptability, and empathy, these were strengths humans carried into the stars, often unknowingly. Elias took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the rift, the presence of Vera, and the potential of tomorrow. He had survived the first day of true interaction with an alien mind, and in doing so, he had learned something more important than any scientific formula. Humanity's ability to connect, adapt, and persist was extraordinary. Somewhere in the rift, energy pulsed with renewed vigor as if responding to the collaboration. Elias smiled to himself. Tomorrow would be harder, the rift would test them again, but he was ready. Together, human ingenuity and Zalari perception might just reveal secrets no one had imagined. And for the first time, Elias felt that he belonged, not just in the rift, but in the vast, untamed cosmos. The morning was quiet, almost eerily so, at the Andromeda Rift Research Station. Elias Trent had grown used to the soft hum of alien energy flows and the gentle pulsing of the rift's flora, but today something felt different. The air was heavier, the colors of the sky darker, and even the glowing plants seemed to shiver. Elias checked the data on his tablet. Lines of energy that normally moved in predictable patterns were fluctuating wildly. Some readings spiked off the charts. "Not good," he muttered, running his hand through his hair. "This isn't normal." Vera appeared silently at his side, as graceful and calm as ever. Her glowing eyes scanned the readings. Elias noticed that her gaze was more intense than usual, focused, calculating. She made a soft hum, a sound he had learned to interpret as concern. "The rift is unstable," Elias said aloud, more to himself than to her. "If these surges continue, they could damage the station, maybe even the surrounding ecosystem." Vera stepped closer to the main console, her fingers brushing the holographic map. Lines of energy responded instantly to her touch, stabilizing temporarily before surging again. Elias watched in awe. Humans could only react with technology and logic. Vera could influence the energy itself, almost as if she were part of the rift. "We need to act fast," Elias said, his voice urgent. "We can't just wait for it to calm down." Vera tilted her head, and then with a smooth motion, she pointed toward the rift's center, a jagged canyon where energy spikes were most severe. Elias realized what she was suggesting. They would have to go there into the heart of the instability to stabilize the currents directly. Elias felt a rush of fear. The rift was unpredictable. Energy surges could shift terrain, collapse paths, or even create sudden storms. But he also felt determination. Humans had faced danger countless times, relying on creativity, courage, and teamwork. He would not back down. "All right," he said, taking a deep breath. "Let's do it together." Vera gave a soft, approving hum and led the way. Elias followed, carrying portable equipment designed to measure and influence energy flows. As they approached the canyon, the air grew thick with static electricity, and the wind whipped in wild, twisting patterns. The glowing plants bent violently, their pulsing lights erratic. Elias tightened his grip on his gear. "Stay close," he called to Vera. "We'll need to coordinate everything perfectly." The Zalari woman nodded, her glowing eyes scanning every fluctuation, every pulse, every anomaly. Elias felt the weight of human responsibility pressing down on him. Technology could only do so much. Here, human intuition, quick thinking, and adaptability would matter just as much as any device. They reached the edge of the canyon. The energy surges were intense, crackling like lightning frozen in the air. Elias carefully positioned sensors, trying to calculate where the currents would peak next. Vera extended her hands, moving them slowly in the air. The energy around her seemed to bend, stabilize, and then pulse again in response to her movements. Elias marveled at her skill, but there was no time to admire. One surge spiked higher than the rest, threatening to knock them off balance. Elias adjusted a sensor manually, improvising a stabilizer from his toolkit. The machine hummed to life, redirecting the surge just enough to prevent disaster. Vera's eyes flickered with acknowledgement. The hum she produced was soft but deliberate, almost as if she were saying, "Good work. You adapt well." Another surge hit, stronger this time, twisting the air and vibrating the ground beneath them. Elias realized that relying on technology alone would not be enough. He had to think fast, predict patterns, and react instantly. Humans had the advantage of flexibility. We can change plans, improvise, create solutions under pressure. He shouted to Vera, pointing to a smaller energy rift that was about to destabilize. She responded immediately, moving her hands in fluid motions that redirected the flow towards safer channels. Elias adjusted his own device to complement her actions. Step by step, surge by surge, they began to regain control. Minutes passed like hours. The rift's energy was relentless, testing their limits. But something remarkable happened. The human ingenuity and Zalari perception, working together, began to stabilize the currents. Elias realized that this was a perfect example of why humans mattered. Alone, they might have failed. Alone, Vera might have failed. But together, combining intuition, creativity, and technology, they could achieve what neither could do alone. "Almost there," Elias muttered, sweat running down his face. His hands were steady, but his heart raced. The final surge was coming, a massive spike that could undo everything. Vera stepped forward, her body glowing faintly in response to the energy around her. Elias mirrored her, positioning his equipment to redirect the flow. The surge hit. Energy twisted, pulsed, and threatened to sweep them away. Elias improvised, adjusting his stabilizer to complement her movements. The rift's energy responded, bending to their combined efforts. For a tense moment, it seemed like they might succeed. Then, with a final, massive pulse, the surge collapsed into a controlled flow. The rift's energy currents calmed, glowing softly as if exhausted from the struggle. Elias fell to his knees, breathing heavily. Vera stood beside him, steady and calm, her glowing eyes reflecting a subtle acknowledgement of the achievement. "We did it," Elias whispered, almost in disbelief. "We actually did it." Vera made a soft hum, her form shifting slightly in what he imagined was the Zalari version of a smile. Elias felt a surge of pride, not just in himself, but in humanity. Humans were fragile, unpredictable, emotional, but they could adapt. They could create solutions under pressure, think creatively, and find paths where none seemed possible. That was why they mattered. Elias looked at her, realizing that this partnership was more than just practical. It was a bridge between species. One day, humans and Zalari might learn from each other fully, but for now, this moment was proof. Courage, curiosity, and ingenuity could overcome even the wildest forces of nature. They began the journey back to the station. The air was calmer now, though the rift still pulsed softly. Elias adjusted his equipment, double-checking the readings. He wanted to make sure that nothing had been left unstable. Vera moved beside him, silent but present, a steady anchor in the chaotic world of the rift. By the time they returned, the station had already received alerts about the energy surges. Other human scientists, monitoring remotely, had been preparing emergency protocols. Elias reported their success. His words were simple, factual, but they carried the weight of human determination and resilience. "We stabilized the currents," he said. "We did it using a combination of technology and intuition." The humans on the other end of the communication line were impressed, but Elias felt that the real accomplishment was in front of him. Vera's presence, her guidance, and her willingness to work with a human had made all the difference. That night, Elias sat in the observation deck, looking out at the rift. The energy flows were calm, almost beautiful now, a testament to what collaboration could achieve. Vera joined him silently, her glowing eyes reflecting the lights of the rift. Elias spoke quietly. "Humans can be reckless, unpredictable, but we adapt. We learn, we survive, and sometimes we can do extraordinary things even in a place like this." Vera tilted her head, emitting a soft hum. Elias smiled, feeling that she understood. Perhaps she did not know the full meaning of his words, but she recognized the intent. And that recognition, small as it was, mattered. He thought about the rift, the energy surges, and the dangers they had faced. Humans were fragile, yes, but they had something unique. Courage in the face of uncertainty, creativity when no solution seemed possible, and the ability to connect with others, even those from completely different worlds. For the first time, Elias felt that humanity's place in the cosmos was not just about exploration or survival. It was about proving that their qualities, curiosity, courage, and adaptability, could matter in ways even advanced alien species recognized. Vera's gaze met his, steady and unwavering. He knew that this was only the beginning. The rift had tested them, but humanity had passed in ways that no one could have predicted. And somewhere deep inside, Elias understood that the universe had more challenges ahead, challenges that humans, with their unpredictable brilliance, were uniquely equipped to face. The stars twinkled above the rift, quiet witnesses to the human spirit and its remarkable capacity to rise, adapt, and endure. Elias felt a warmth of pride, not arrogance, but the deep satisfaction of knowing that humans, though small and fragile, could stand tall in even the most alien of worlds. And beside him, Vera remained, silent, patient, and watchful, a living reminder that trust, understanding, and collaboration could bridge the vast distances between species, turning uncertainty into achievement. The rift had quieted, but the station remained alive with the soft hum of machinery and the gentle pulsing of alien energy. After the previous day's crisis, Elias Trent moved with a sense of purpose, yet he noticed something had changed. The rift still held its mysteries, but he no longer felt its danger as a threat pressing in. Instead, he felt a sense of partnership, one that had grown between him and Vera, the Zalari woman who had guided him through the chaos. Morning arrived slowly, filtered through the hazy glow of the rift. Elias was already at the observation deck, reviewing the data collected from the canyon. Patterns were clearer now. Energy flows were stabilizing, and the once unpredictable currents now appeared almost harmonious, like music. Vera joined him, her presence quiet but steady. Elias looked at her, noticing the way her glowing eyes tracked the data points, following his finger as he traced lines across the holographic map. She was watching him, not critically, but with genuine interest. "Do you understand what we are seeing?" he asked, choosing his words carefully. Humans and Zalari did not share language in the traditional sense, but over time he had learned that tone, gesture, and inflection could convey meaning. Vera tilted her head, humming softly. Elias took it as a yes, or at least an acknowledgement that she grasped the concept. He smiled. Small victories mattered. "I think," Elias continued, "that the rift is not just energy, it's a system. It reacts to stimuli, to us, to everything around it. If we want to truly understand it, we need to work together." Vera extended a hand toward the display, her fingers tracing a flow of energy. Elias watched, fascinated. Though humans could study, calculate, and manipulate with tools, Vera's interaction seemed instinctive. She could feel the rift as though it spoke to her directly. "We humans are not as connected to the environment," Elias said quietly. "We think, we build, we create, but we often forget to listen. Maybe that's why it's harder for us to understand something like the rift." Vera hummed again, a soft and melodic sound. Elias had come to recognize these hums as her form of communication, a mixture of acknowledgement, consideration, and emotion. It was subtle, but it meant more than words sometimes could. The day was spent in exploration. Together, Elias and Vera ventured deeper into parts of the rift they had not yet mapped. Each step was a lesson. Elias would place sensors and record measurements, while Vera guided energy flows, ensuring the terrain remained stable. They communicated in gestures, sounds, and the occasional simple phrase. Each interaction built trust, each success reinforced their partnership. At one point, they reached a plateau overlooking a deep fissure. The energy currents here were faint, but intricate, twisting in delicate spirals that reminded Elias of a galaxy. He knelt to take readings. Vera approached and extended a hand over the same currents. The energy shimmered, responding to her touch. Elias watched in awe, realizing how humans and Zalari approached the same problem in different ways. Humans used tools, logic, and calculation. The Zalari used perception, intuition, and presence. Together, the combination was powerful. He straightened and spoke softly. "You know, the humans on Earth often think of themselves as weak, fragile, but in moments like this, I think we're not weak at all. We adapt. We find solutions. We don't give up." Vera's gaze met his. For a moment, her eyes seemed to glow brighter, as if acknowledging the truth in his words. Elias smiled. Humans might not have innate connection to the rift, but their ability to learn, to improvise, and to persist was something the Zalari had never fully experienced. As the day wore on, Elias noticed something subtle. Vera's behavior toward him had changed. She no longer seemed merely curious or cautious. She observed with intent, and sometimes when he adjusted equipment or suggested a solution, her hums carried a tone that Elias interpreted as respect. The Zolari rarely expressed such feelings, but here it was, clear and unmistakable. Elias felt a warmth in his chest. Humans were not always graceful. They were emotional, impulsive, sometimes clumsy. Yet those qualities allowed him to reach this point, a mutual understanding with an alien species, a connection built not on words, but on trust, effort, and shared experience. Night fell over the rift, and the station glowed softly in the alien darkness. Elias and Vera returned, exhausted but satisfied. He settled near the observation deck, looking out at the serene energy flows of the rift. Vera joined him silently. He realized that despite her alien nature, there was a comfort in her presence. She did not speak, but her calmness was reassuring. It reminded him that connection did not always require words. Sometimes understanding and companionship were enough. "I never expected to feel this," Elias said quietly. That humans and Zolari could work together like this, that we could actually understand each other." Vera made a soft hum, long and melodic this time. Elias interpreted it as agreement and perhaps even appreciation. Over the next few days, their partnership deepened. Elias began experimenting with methods that combined human technology and Zolari intuition. He would set up devices to monitor energy flows, and Vera would guide those flows with her presence, stabilizing surges that no machine could handle alone. He learned quickly that humans had strengths that Zolari did not always recognize: imagination, adaptability, and courage in the face of uncertainty. These qualities complemented Vera's skills, creating results neither could achieve alone. One evening, after another successful exploration, Elias sat by the holographic display, reviewing the day's data. Vera moved closer, her form glowing faintly in the low light. She watched him silently, her gaze steady. "You know," he said softly, "we humans can be reckless. Impulsive, sometimes we make mistakes, but we also learn, and we don't give up. Maybe that's why we survive in places like this. Maybe that's why you trust me." Vera tilted her head. The hum she emitted was soft, almost gentle. Elias smiled, realizing that the connection between them had grown beyond necessity. It was no longer just about work, about stabilizing the rift. It was about respect, trust, and understanding, a bridge between two very different species. As night deepened, Elias felt a sense of peace he had not known in months. The rift, dangerous and unpredictable as it was, no longer felt like a threat. With Vera by his side, he felt capable, prepared, and connected. The next day, they continued their work, mapping deeper sections of the rift. They encountered new challenges: sudden shifts in terrain, pockets of unstable energy, and areas where alien flora reacted aggressively to disturbances. But every challenge reinforced their partnership. Elias discovered that humans could innovate quickly. When a sensor failed, he improvised a replacement from spare parts. When an unexpected energy spike threatened their path, he calculated a new route in seconds. Vera responded with her own skills, stabilizing the flows and guiding him safely. Together, they created solutions that neither could achieve alone. During a rare break, Elias watched Vera carefully. Her glowing eyes followed the rift's energy, but sometimes she glanced at him, observing not just his actions but his thought process. He realized that she was learning from him just as he was learning from her. The connection was mutual. "You know," Elias said quietly, "humans aren't just survivors. We're curious, we create, we reach out even when we don't know what's waiting. Maybe that's why we matter in the universe." Vera tilted her head again, emitting a hum that Elias took as agreement. In that moment, he felt the depth of their connection. Humans and Zolari working together, learning from each other, forming bonds that could transcend worlds. As the sun set, casting long shadows over the rift, Elias and Vera returned to the station. The day had been exhausting but productive. He felt pride, not arrogance, but a deep satisfaction in human potential and achievement. "Tomorrow," he said softly, "we explore further, we learn more, and maybe we discover more than just energy patterns. Maybe we discover what it really means to work together, human and Zolari, side by side." Vera's eyes glowed softly in the dim light, steady and unwavering. Elias smiled, knowing that their connection had become more than just professional. It was a partnership of trust, respect, and understanding, a bridge between species that would endure. That night, as he lay in his quarters, Elias thought about the journey so far. Humans were fragile, unpredictable, emotional. Yet those qualities had allowed him to reach this point. The ability to adapt, to innovate, and to connect was what made humanity remarkable. And in the rift among the alien energies and strange flora, those qualities had created something extraordinary. A bond with another species, one built on respect, trust, and shared experience. He drifted to sleep, confident that tomorrow would bring new discoveries, new challenges, and new opportunities to prove that humans, fragile as they might seem, could make a difference across the stars. The Andromeda Rift glowed softly under the alien stars as Elias Trent prepared for the final phase of the mission. Weeks had passed since the first fateful encounter with Vera, the Zalari woman who had changed his understanding of humanity and its place among the stars. Together, they had faced unstable energy currents, mapped the rift, and survived dangers that could have overwhelmed a single species alone. Elias looked out from the observation deck, feeling a mixture of pride and sadness. The research station had become a second home, and the rift, a realm of chaos and beauty, had become familiar. Yet the humans would be leaving soon. The mission's end was approaching, and with it, the certainty of parting from Vera. She appeared silently beside him, her form glimmering in the soft light. Elias smiled, trying to mask the emotions swirling within him. "We've done well," he said quietly. "Better than I imagined. The data, the readings, everything is in order." Vera made a soft hum, the kind that Elias had come to understand as approval or acknowledgement. She moved closer, her glowing eyes fixed on him, unwavering. There was no need for words. The connection between them had grown beyond language. Trust, respect, and understanding had formed a bridge between two species. Elias turned to face her fully. "I wanted to say thank you for everything, for guiding me, for trusting me, and for letting me learn from you." Vera tilted her head, and the hum she emitted this time was longer, richer. Elias interpreted it as something more, perhaps gratitude, perhaps recognition of the bond they had formed. He felt a warmth that was deeper than pride, deeper than relief. It was the warmth of connection, the understanding that humans, despite their flaws, had the power to inspire trust and cooperation across worlds. The day began with final checks and calibrations. Sensors were removed, samples carefully stored, and readings backed up. Elias worked quickly, efficiently, but with a quiet sense of ceremony. This was the culmination of weeks of effort, a testament to human curiosity, ingenuity, and determination. Vera observed him closely, moving through the station with fluid grace. She adjusted energy flows here and there, ensuring that nothing destabilized during the human preparations. Elias realized that she was not merely assisting. She was watching over them, maintaining the rift's balance while the humans completed their final tasks. "Tomorrow the humans leave," Elias said softly, "and I won't see you for a long time." He paused, unsure if the Zalari could fully grasp the meaning of absence. "But I hope that what we've done here matters. That it shows humans can work with others, learn, adapt, and survive, even in worlds like this." Vera stepped closer, her hand hovering near his. The gesture was subtle, yet Elias felt the weight of it. She was offering a bond, a silent acknowledgement that transcended language. Humans had the ability to reach out, to connect, to form trust even with beings vastly different from themselves. And Vera's gesture was proof that this ability could bridge worlds. That night, Elias sat by the observation deck, reviewing the rift's final readings. Vera remained nearby, a calm presence, her glowing eyes following the energy currents as if they spoke to her directly. Elias thought about the human qualities that had brought them here: curiosity, courage, creativity, and resilience. In the face of the unknown, humans had adapted, they had persisted, and through those qualities they had formed a bond with a species that many considered unapproachable, mysterious, or indifferent. He spoke softly, more to himself than to her. "Humans aren't perfect. We're emotional, sometimes reckless, often impulsive, but we learn, we adapt, and we care. Maybe that's what makes us remarkable." Vera emitted a soft, melodic hum. Elias took it as agreement. The Zalari may not have words for emotions as humans understood them, but in her hum, in her steady gaze, he sensed comprehension. Trust, respect, understanding, these were universal, crossing the boundaries of species and language. The following morning, the humans prepared to leave the station. Cargo was secured, equipment checked, and transport vehicles fueled. Elias moved efficiently, but his mind kept returning to Vera. He realized that their partnership had grown into something far beyond professional necessity. It had become personal, built on shared effort, trust, and the quiet understanding that they had learned from each other. Vera approached the landing platform, her presence radiant in the soft light of the rift. Elias walked beside her, careful to match her movements, careful not to break the silent rhythm they had established over weeks of cooperation. He stopped before boarding the transport. Turning to her, he held out his hand. For trust, for partnership, for everything. Vera extended her own hand, and for a brief moment, human and Zalari connected. There was no need for words. The gesture conveyed respect, acknowledgement, and the bond formed through shared experience. Elias felt a surge of pride, not just for himself, but for humanity. Despite flaws, despite uncertainty, humans had the courage and adaptability to create understanding across worlds. As the transport lifted off, Elias looked back at the station. Vera remained on the platform, her form glowing softly, eyes steady and unwavering. He felt a mixture of sadness and gratitude. The rift had tested them, and humans had responded with ingenuity and courage. The bond with Vera was proof that even in the most alien environments, humans could make a difference. In the hours that followed, the ship traveled through the rift's edge, carrying Elias and the rest of the human team back to the fleet's main station. He reviewed the mission logs, noting every success, every challenge overcome, and every instance where human creativity had made a difference. Yet none of it mattered as much as the personal connection he had formed. He thought about Vera. She had shown him that the Zalari were capable of trust, observation, and learning from humans, if only humans approached with courage and honesty. In turn, he had demonstrated that human qualities, curiosity, determination, adaptability, were strengths that even advanced species could respect. Elias realized that this mission was not just about data or mapping or stabilizing the rift. It was a testament to human potential. In a universe filled with unknowns, humans could bridge gaps, build trust, and find solutions where others might fail. As night fell over the main station, Elias looked out at the stars. Somewhere in the rift, Vera was watching over the energies they had stabilized together. The bond they had formed would endure, invisible but unbroken. Human ingenuity and courage had proven themselves, leaving a mark not just on the rift, but on the heart of another species. Elias closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of the journey and the significance of what had been achieved. Humans were fragile, emotional, and unpredictable, but they were capable of extraordinary things. The partnership with Vera had shown him that trust, respect, and shared effort could overcome even the most alien challenges. When the fleet's lights illuminated the station's docking bay, Elias prepared for departure. He knew the human team would continue their work elsewhere, but the lessons from the rift would remain with him forever. And somewhere, Vera would continue her silent vigil, her perception of humans forever changed by the courage, curiosity, and adaptability she had witnessed firsthand. As the transport lifted off, Elias took one last look at the rift. He thought of Vera's steady gaze, her glowing eyes, and the moments of shared triumph. Humans had proven themselves capable, not just through technology, but through spirit. Their creativity, persistence, and willingness to connect had bridged worlds. He whispered softly, almost as a promise. "We'll meet again. Humans will keep learning, keep adapting, keep reaching, and next time we'll do even more together." The stars stretched endlessly ahead, carrying humanity forward, bold, curious, and unafraid. And somewhere deep in the rift, Vera remained, a silent witness to what humans could achieve, and a reminder that even the most alien of worlds could recognize courage, ingenuity, and the human heart. The mission was over, but the story of partnership, trust, and interstellar understanding had only just begun. Humanity had shown its value, not in strength or size or weapons, but in qualities that no technology could replace: curiosity, courage, adaptability, and the ability to connect across the stars. And for Elias Trent, the memory of Vera's unwavering gaze, the hums that spoke more than words, and the lessons of the rift would stay with him forever. Humans had left their mark, and the universe had taken notice.